There's a kind of silence most people never hear. It's not peaceful, it's not still. It's the kind of silence that exists when you feel like your voice doesn't matter. When you speak and nothing comes back, when the words you do say feel like a performance, a script, something you rehearse just to survive another moment of discomfort. A lot of men live there. We grow up learning to wear masks, quiet ones, loud ones, strong ones. We're taught to man up, to suppress doubt, to answer pain with sarcasm, with aggression, with indifference, and somewhere along the line we start confusing that mask for our voice. We forget how to speak without it, but here's the thing, you can't connect through a mask. You can't build real intimacy, trust, or respect by pretending to be someone you're not. The silence behind the mask, it becomes a prison. You feel it in conversations where you're never fully you. You feel it in relationships that stay surface level. You feel it at night when the noise dies down and you're left wondering if anyone truly sees you, if you truly see yourself. And that silence is heavy. It's not just emotional, it's physical. It affects the way you breathe, the way you hold tension in your chest, the way your voice tightens when you try to express what you really feel. It leaks into your tone, makes it sharp when you're scared, flat when you're lost, fake when you're desperate to impress. We're not just talking about speech here, we're talking about who you are when you speak. Because real presence, real power doesn't come from trying to dominate a room. It comes from aligning your voice with your truth, and for many of us that alignment has been broken for years. Maybe no one ever modeled what honest, vulnerable communication looked like. Maybe you only saw men speak from anger or control, or worse, silence. But what if I told you silence doesn't have to be your default? What if your voice could become a place of freedom again, not performance? What if you didn't have to raise it to prove yourself? What if your power was in your clarity, not your volume? See, the mask might help you get through the world, but it also blocks you from being known. And the moment you remove it, even just a little, something changes. People listen differently, they lean in, because authenticity has a frequency you can't fake. This isn't about being soft or sentimental. This is about being real. You don't have to cry to be vulnerable. You don't have to explain your entire life story. But you do have to show up as yourself, not some version of who you think the world wants you to be. And I get it, there's fear there, the fear of not being enough, the fear that if you let someone hear the real you, they might not like it. But here's what's more terrifying. Going through your entire life, speaking every day, and never really being heard. Because even when your voice is technically loud, your soul can still be silent. If you've ever felt that, felt like you're on the outside of your own life, like no one gets what's actually going on inside you, then I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to invite you to something deeper, something more human. Start with this. Listen to your own voice. Not just what you say, but how you say it. Where does it crack? Where does it hide? What words do you repeat because you're afraid to say the one that really matters? Pay attention. That's where your healing begins. That's where you start peeling the mask back, not to be exposed, but to be seen. And when you begin to speak from that place, raw, honest, imperfect but true, you'll notice something. People respond. You start attracting different conversations, different relationships, different energy. Because when a man speaks from his truth, he doesn't need to shout. He resonates, and the silence, it's no longer your prison. It becomes your power. Have you ever walked into a room, raised your voice, cracked the joke, made the bold claim, and still felt invisible? That's the paradox of noise. You can be the loudest voice in the room and still be completely unheard. You can post the hottest take, dominate a conversation, talk circles around someone, and yet feel utterly disconnected inside. Why? Because volume without vision is just noise. So many men, especially young men, mistake loudness for leadership. We think if we speak up more, people will listen. If we act confident, women will feel safe. If we dominate the conversation, we'll be seen as strong. But people don't respond to noise. They respond to meaning, and meaning doesn't come from how loudly you speak. It comes from why you're speaking in the first place. There's a difference between talking and communicating. One fills space, the other creates connection. You see, when you speak without vision, without clarity of purpose, without self-awareness, your words scatter. They hit ears but not hearts. They echo in the air but leave no impact. It's like throwing rocks into the ocean. Splash, 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 but no ripple ever reaches the shore. But when you speak with vision, when your voice is grounded in who you are and what matters to you, it's not just heard. It lands, it stays, it carries, and here's the truth that many men miss. Confidence isn't volume, confidence is alignment. When your values, your intentions, and your voice all move in the same direction, people feel that. There's no need to shout, you become undeniable, but that kind of clarity, it takes work. It takes knowing what you stand for and what you won't stand for. It means getting brutally honest about the ways you've used your voice to cover up your insecurity instead of facing it. The jokes, the sarcasm, the bravado, the subtle manipulations, you've probably done it, so have I. We raise our voices when we feel small. We interrupt when we feel afraid we'll be ignored. We perform when we're unsure we belong. But the problem isn't your volume. It's your vision, so I ask you, what do you want your voice to do? Do you want to impress or impact? Do you want to be seen or be felt? Those aren't the same thing. Women especially can feel the difference. A woman will hear the voice of a man who's talking to impress her and feel nothing. But a man who speaks from center, who knows who he is, what he values, and what he's not trying to prove, that voice resonates. That voice is safe, it's rare, and it's deeply attractive. This doesn't mean being monotone or cold. It means knowing the why behind your words. Every sentence you say has weight. Are you aware of it? Are you owning it? Because the truth is, your voice teaches people how to treat you. It sets the tone. It reflects the relationship you have with yourself. If you speak from chaos, you attract chaos. If you speak from purpose, you attract alignment. That's not philosophy, it's physics, and this doesn't just apply to dating or relationships. It applies to leadership, friendships, family, work. Everywhere, if you want to change how people respond to you, you have to start by changing how you speak to the world. Lower the volume, increase the vision, don't rush to fill silence, don't say things just to be liked. Don't confuse performing with presence, start asking better questions, start listening more than you talk. Start speaking from why, not from fear. That's where your voice stops being noise and starts becoming music. And the world is starving for music right now. There's a moment in every man's life when someone asks him a simple question, "How are you feeling?" and he freezes. Not because he doesn't want to answer, but because he doesn't have the words. So instead he says, "I'm fine," or "I don't know." Or worse, he laughs it off, deflects it, turns it into a joke, because somewhere deep down, the idea of answering truthfully feels like failure. But here's what we rarely tell men. If you can't name it, you can't heal it. Think about that. If your car is breaking down, you need the right vocabulary to explain the issue: engine, brakes, transmission. If you don't know the parts, you can't fix the problem. Your emotions work the same way. Anger isn't just anger. Sometimes it's disappointment. Sometimes it's fear in armor. Sometimes it's grief that hasn't found a name. But if all you've been taught is anger, then that's the only tool you'll reach for. And like any tool misused, it damages more than it builds. Most men are emotionally underfed because they were never given a language to describe what they feel. They weren't taught how to stay with sadness, or how to sit in discomfort, or how to express vulnerability without being shamed. So they shut it down, numb it out, pretend it's not there, and what happens next? The feelings don't disappear. They leak into your tone, into your relationships, into your habits. You snap when you should slow down. You ghost when you should speak up. You isolate when you really need connection. But all of that changes, everything changes, when you begin to build an emotional vocabulary. Because emotional vocabulary isn't weakness, it's precision, it's clarity, it's power when you can say, I feel anxious because I don't know where I stand, or I feel resentment because I've been giving more than I've received, or even I feel lonely even when I'm around people. Then you're no longer reacting blindly. You're leading with awareness, and with awareness comes choice. You can choose a better response, a better boundary, a better path forward. And yes, I know, this kind of honesty feels risky, especially for men. There's that voice in your head saying, don't say too much, don't go too deep, don't be weak. But let me tell you something clearly. Avoiding emotional language doesn't make you strong, it makes you silent. And silence, especially in your inner world, turns into confusion, frustration, even self-destruction. You don't have to be a poet, you don't need therapy, speak or long monologues. You just need enough vocabulary to own your truth in real time. To say, I feel overwhelmed, or I feel rejected, or I feel like I'm disappearing in my own life. That level of honesty doesn't push people away. It draws the right people closer, because the men who speak from emotion, not in chaos but in clarity, they are the ones we remember. They are the ones we trust, the ones we follow, the ones who form deeper relationships, romantic, professional, and personal. If you want to be a hive, Al, you man not just in income but in impact, you need this skill. You need to know how to say what's real. You need to know how to feel what's true. You need to trust your voice enough to let it carry emotion. And when you do, your voice becomes more than sound. It becomes substance, because the most powerful voices on earth are not the ones that shout. They are the ones that speak truth, and speak it fluently. There's a reason people can tell when you're faking it. Even if the words sound right, even if the body language is perfect, something underneath feels off. We don't always know how to explain it, but we feel it, because the human body, especially the voice, is a resonance chamber. It doesn't just carry sound, it carries truth, and truth can't be faked. That's why presence will always be more powerful than performance. Performance is what most of us were trained to do, especially as men. Smile when you're uncomfortable. Puff your chest when you're afraid. Say what they want to hear. Hide what might make you look weak. And it works. For a while, you'll get attention. You might even get praise, but attention isn't connection. And praise isn't presence, because here's what presence actually is. It's when you show up undivided, not split between who you are and who you're pretending to be, not playing a role or reading a script. Just here fully, honestly. Think about the last time you spoke to someone and they were really listening. No phone in their hand, no glaze, over eyes, just attention, openness, stillness, that's presence, and in that moment you felt seen. Now flip it. How often do you give that to others? In your relationships, your conversations, your date. So are you truly there? Or are you managing how you look, how you sound, whether you're saying the right thing? Because most men today are so used to performing that they've forgotten what it feels like to simply be. Here's the truth, you don't need to be the most charismatic. You don't need the best line, the perfect words. What people are starving for isn't entertainment, it's realness, especially women. If you're trying to build deeper romantic connections, know this. Presence is the ultimate attraction. Not muscles, not status, not mystery. Presence, when a woman feels you're fully with her, not scanning the room, not self-monitoring, not trying to impress, but simply with her, it changes everything. She relaxes, she opens, she listens, because your groundedness gives her permission to do the same. And presence doesn't mean you always know what to say. Sometimes presence is silence, a deep breath, a pause before reacting. Sometimes presence is simply not leaving yourself when emotions come up. So many men disconnect from themselves the moment they feel discomfort. They dissociate when they feel judged. They mask up when they feel insecure. But real presence says, I can stay, I can feel this, I can be here with it without shrinking. And from that place, your voice changes. It becomes slower, richer, more connected. It stops trying to convince and starts to invite. There is incredible strength in a man who is calm in his own body, not because he's holding everything in, but because he's holding nothing back. He's not performing, he's being, and that kind of voice is unforgettable because the world is loud. It's overstimulated, it's distracted, but presence cuts through the noise like a bell in the fog. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it. So let this be your reminder, you don't need to say more. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to perform. You need to return to yourself, to your body, to your breath, to the moment you're in, because that's where real connection lives, not in volume. Not in cleverness, but in stillness, in awareness, in the space between your words, where people feel your truth more than they hear it. That's presence, and it's a voice the world won't forget. We tend to think of purpose as a moment, a flash of insight, a lightning strike. One day we imagine it'll hit us. We'll wake up, know exactly what we're here for, and speak from that place with perfect clarity. But that's not how purpose works. Purpose isn't a moment, it's a muscle, and like any muscle it has to be trained, over time, with intention, with consistency. Most men spend their lives waiting for certainty, waiting to feel ready, waiting for permission to speak or act with conviction. And in the meantime, they drift. They chase someone else's definition of success. They mimic other voices, take on borrowed missions, wear ideals that don't quite fit. And then they wonder why nothing sticks, why they feel empty after accomplishments, why their relationships feel hollow. Why their voice doesn't carry the weight they hoped it would. It's not because they don't have something to say. It's because they haven't built the inner architecture that gives their voice shape. You build purpose by showing up every day and asking yourself, what do I stand for? What do I value? What am I willing to lose to stay true to myself? Those questions aren't always comfortable. They won't always give you clean answers, but they give you direction, and that direction becomes voice. See, without purpose, your voice gets hijacked by ego, by anxiety, by the need to be liked, and that's when you start performing again, saying things that sound good instead of things that are good, making choices that keep you safe instead of choices that make you proud, speaking from fear instead of from truth. But when your purpose is trained, when it's part of your posture, not just your fantasy, you stop performing. You stop chasing applause. You start guiding with your words. You start using your voice not just to get something, but to give something. That shift is everything, because when you speak from purpose, people feel it. They may not even agree with you, but they'll respect you. They'll feel your grounding, your clarity, your direction, and most importantly, you'll respect you. You'll lie down at night knowing your voice didn't betray you, that you didn't fold when it would have been easier, that you didn't sell a piece of yourself for cheap attention, that you stood inside your own values and spoke from there even if your voice shook. And look, purpose evolves, it grows as you grow. What matters to you today might shift a year from now. That's normal, but the muscle gets stronger with every rep, every hard conversation you don't run from, every truth you speak when it would be easier to stay quiet, every time you choose integrity over image. That's purpose, not fireworks, not some Instagram-ready revelation, but daily alignment with who you say you are. And when that becomes your baseline, your emotional core, then your voice stops being random noise. It becomes rhythm. Message, signal. It's the difference between a man who fills silence just to avoid being alone with himself and a man who knows why he's speaking. So if you're still waiting for purpose to show up fully formed, stop waiting, start training, ask, reflect, speak, adjust, repeat, because one day you'll find yourself in a moment where your voice is needed, where silence would be betrayal, where someone is looking to you not for volume but for direction. And if you've done the work, if you've strengthened that inner muscle, you'll speak not just with sound, but with purpose, and that is the kind of voice this world is dying to hear. Most men misunderstand love. We've been taught to think of it as soft, romantic, maybe even weak. We put it in a box, something for relationships, something private, something passive. But real love, mature love, is not weak. It's not passive. It's not just about romance. Love is leadership. And when you speak from love, you don't just express feelings, you shape reality. See, most men speak from need. From lack, from insecurity. We speak to impress, to protect, to win. We raise our voices to hide our fear. We retreat into silence to avoid pain. And beneath all of it, we're hoping someone, anyone, will just tell us we're okay. But here's the truth. You can't lead anyone, not a woman, not a team, not a family, if you don't know how to speak from love. Because love is the place your voice becomes safe, not soft, not weak, safe, reliable, grounded, fierce when needed, gentle when it matters. A man who speaks from love doesn't posture. He doesn't manipulate. He doesn't use charm as a weapon or silence as control. He speaks clearly because he's clear inside. He speaks honestly because he values truth more than comfort. He speaks humbly because he knows who he is and who he's still becoming, and when a woman hears that voice, she leans in, not because you're performing, but because she can feel that you're present, rooted, trustable. That's real masculinity. That's leadership. And listen, this doesn't mean you always say the perfect thing. It doesn't mean you avoid anger or frustration, but even when you're angry, even when you're hurt, if your words come from love, not ego, people can feel the difference. You can say, "That hurt me. I need space right now. I care about this too much to pretend it's fine." That's love in leadership. It's vulnerable, yes, but vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the courage to be seen clearly and speak anyway. When you speak from love, your voice creates safety, not just for others but for you. You stop using it as a weapon. You stop running from it. You start living inside it. That's when people start following you, not because you're loud, but because your presence tells them, "You can trust me. I'm here. I'm real." And here's something you might need to hear, maybe for the first time. You deserve to speak from love. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to fix yourself first. You don't need to wait until you feel more confident, more healed, more together. You speak from love by choosing it. In the middle of your fear, in the middle of your mess, right here, right now, it starts when you stop asking, "How do I look?" and start asking, "What do I want this voice to do?" Do you want it to impress or impact? Do you want it to protect your image or build something real? Because if your voice can be shaped by love, by truth, by presence, by purpose, then you become the kind of man the world needs more of. Not louder, not smoother, stronger, wiser, warmer, real. And that's the voice that changes lives. One word at a time. Maybe no one ever told you this before. Maybe you've gone your whole life thinking your voice doesn't matter, that you're too much or not enough. Too quiet, too emotional, too angry, too unsure. That being a man means sounding strong, even when you feel broken. But let me remind you, right now, right here, your voice matters not when it's perfect, not when you've figured it all out. It matters because it's yours, because it carries the weight of your story, because someone out there is waiting to hear something real, something true from you. So stop silencing yourself, stop shrinking to fit in, stop shouting just to be heard. Speak with purpose. Speak with love. Speak like you know who you are, even if you're still finding out. And if this message landed for you, if something in your chest cracked open, even just a little, don't keep that to yourself. Like this video so we know it spoke to you. Comment below with the one line that hit hardest, not just to be seen, but to show another man he's not alone. Share this with a brother who's struggling in silence, who's stuck in performance, who needs a reminder that his voice is worth hearing. And if you want more like this, more real, more grounded, more human, subscribe. Because this isn't just content. It's a call to speak, to show up, to lead not by volume but by truth. We'll keep going, and if you're with us, your voice will too.